have your attention, please? In just a moment, we're going to begin the funeral services of Howard Gelber. Officiating this morning is Cantor Howard Friedland. I'd like to just share with you that Rachel Weiss is not feeling well. We offer her refuah shlema, a speedy and complete recovery. This time I invite everyone to please be sure that your cell phones have been turned off, and those of you who are joining us via live stream. And the Cantors are going to approach the family to perform the ancient ceremony of Kriya, the tearing of the ribbon. I invite those of you in the first row to please rise as Cantor Friedland approaches.
Please stand up, everyone is wearing the ribbon. So it is said that that our ancestor Jacob was so overcome with grief at the supposed news of the death of his son Joseph that he tore his garment. And so it is today. Some people tear a garment, a dress, a shirt, a suit. Today we tear the ribbon. And it's a sign everyone who comes in contact with you that you're grieving, that your heart is broken. And we wear it for a period of 7 days of Shiva, some for the period of Shloshim, 30 days, some beyond that. And we hope in the days and the weeks and the months to follow that tear in your heart begins to heal as you come back to life. So first, we say the requisite prayer, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam dayan ha'emet. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, the true judge. Adonai natan, Adonai lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai mevorach. God has given, God has taken away. Blessed be God. So welcome to all of you who are here in person, all of you who are here online. We've come together as family and community to express our sacred sorrow. We've come together to draw strength from one another and from the ultimate source of all strength. We've come together to affirm comfort and blessing in the face of deepest loss. We've come together to bid farewell to Howard Gelber. We share a common prayer that the source of healing sustain those of you who grieve. May those wounded with loss be blessed with love and compassion. And we pray that the journey that lies ahead lead from darkness to light. As it is written, thus says the source of hope, I will respond to your yearning. When you call out to me in the night, I will answer. I will be with you even in the darkest of places. I will give you strength. I will nourish you, and you shall know protection beneath the shelter of my wings. And we extend heartfelt condolences to Howard's family, to his wife Charlene, to his children Jason and Monica, to Shelley and Dory, to his grandchildren Maya and Elias, to Brisa, Sabine, and Itai. And my condolences to all of you, whether you're related by blood or not, who are grieving in this moment and are missing the light and love that was Howard's life. We pray for wholeness and compassion in the days to come. And let us say, Amen. The 23rd Psalm. Mizmor David, Adonai rovi. Vinod dasher gitzeni, arme menuchot, yenachaleni, nafshi yishovev, Yanchei v'mavlei tzedek, צדק למען שמו. גם כי הלך אגד צלמוות לא ירא כי אתה עמדי. שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני. ברוך לפני שולחן נגד צורריי. נשענת השם אל ראשי כוסי לוויה. אך טוב החסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי. ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. אדוני רועי לא אחסר. אדוני רועי לא אחסר. The Holy One is my guide, my life is whole. We journey together over fertile hillsides and rest beside nourishing springs. Thus is my spirit ever renewed, for my guide leads me down paths of fullness. Even when my steps lead into the kingdom of death, I do not fear, for I know you are with me. Your presence, your shelter is a comfort to me. With you I can set myself aright in the face of deepest sorrow, and soon my joy is filled to overflowing. As I journey on, nothing but kindness and love shall follow until the day I finally return to my source, to my destination. Psalm 121, Esai nai ha'hagim me'ayin yavo ezri me'yim Adonai oseh shamayim va'aretz. My eyes look into the void. From where will my help come? My help comes from my very source, the fashioner of order and harmony. Your guardian will catch you when you slip. Your shelter will protect you while you sleep. Your night will not last forever, for your protector will surely bring back the sun in the morning. Your source will watch over you at all times. And as you came into this world, swaddled in loving embrace, so shall you leave. This from Ecclesiastes, the book of Kohelet. A generation goes, a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises, the sun sets and glides back to where it rises again. Southward blowing, turning northward, ever turning, blows the wind. On its rounds, the wind returns. All streams flow into the sea, but the sea is never full. To the place from which they flow, there they flow back again. The Torah is the sacred book of the Jewish people. And it is some parts history, some parts myth, some parts taken from other cultures. When we finally compiled it and set it in stone, so to speak, no one has added to it nor subtracted from it. Everyone reads the same words of Torah no matter what stream of Judaism they practice. Excuse me. And from the Torah, from the characters in the Torah, from the greatest characters in Torah, we learn how to live a meritorious life. And from those characters who are not so meritorious, we learn how not to live our lives. And it would not surprise anyone to know that very often we find those who are meritorious and those who are not meritorious in the very same person, the very same character. I think that's the brilliance of Torah. It mimics life as it is. It's who we are as human beings. We're imperfect people trying to do the best we can with life, trying to answer the questions, how did we get here? What is our purpose while we're here? What do we leave those who succeed us, and where do we go once we depart from here? And some of those questions we can answer, some we cannot, but we use the Torah as our template, as our guide. And I believe every person who lives writes their own Torah scroll. And from that scroll, we either learn how to live a good life or we don't. And Howard definitely left us a scroll that's worthy of example and taught us how to live. And we'll hear about his Torah today. We'll begin with his son, Jason.
All right. Thank you. First of all, I do find it kind of weird but great that this is my dad's yarmulke because my daughter Maya is wearing his jacket that was in the pocket. I don't know how this fit him, but it doesn't fit me, so he must have had it for a really long time. But a few years ago, I remember him asking me, "You're going to speak at my funeral, right?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, of course. We got time. Worried about that. We got plenty of time." But over the years, it would just pop up every now and then when I heard him get sick or fall. I'm like, okay, what am I going to say? And I just started racking my brain. There were many images that come to my head, and there were a few stories that came to my mind. But I mean, like the time that he surprised me with Super Bowl tickets when they were playing Detroit. So we got in the car and drove up to Detroit and went to the Super Bowl there. It was a great time. The night before, we went to the Detroit Red Wings hockey game. A lot of the stories I have and I remember, memories of my father, were at sports. Season tickets to the Blackhawks, many Bears games, going to that Super Bowl, 49ers against the Bengals. I could talk about stories of how I got out of doing math in 6th grade one night. I got out of doing my homework. He picked me up from school one day, and he thought it would be good good experience to go watch him present his sales presentation to another company, another business. So he picked me up right from school. We went, I sat in the back. It was a big room like this. He had some demonstrations, some pumps, and he was demonstrating, and then from there we went to dinner, and then from there we went to the Blackhawks game, again around sports. And then we got home, it was really late, and I still had to do my math homework. And he said, "Yeah, it's really late, go to bed. I'll write you a note." And so he wrote me a note basically saying, "I'm sorry, Jason did his homework. I thought it'd be a good life experience for him to come with me and watch me give this presentation." And so I remember Mrs. Privilege, she read the note and said, "Okay, that makes sense. You don't have to do it." That was great. Future put back in my mind, life lessons. And now I think about it, I remember more life lessons than I do anything I probably learned in 6th grade math anyways. There was another time, I remember meeting Bo Schembecker. That was the thing with my dad, he wasn't afraid to go up and talk to anybody. I was with my friend Randy. My friend Randy drove down from Boston. In college years. He came to Met this year, stayed with us. We were going to drive out to USC together. So we went to dinner. It was just my dad and Randy and myself, and we sat down at Rosebud downtown, and Bo Schembecker was at the next table. For those of you that don't know, Bo Schembecker, I know most of you do, for you guys in the front row, he was a long-time head coach at the University of Michigan, very famous football coach. And Randy and I were like, that's Bo Schembecker. And of course, we were freaks. And of course, nope, not Dad. Stand up, excuse me, Coach Gelber. This is my son Jason and his friend Randy. They're students that are on the USC football team. And they just wanted to say hello. And of course, we were afraid to talk to him because we had just beaten him in the Rose Bowl back in January, a few months prior, and it was his very last game as a coach. And she goes, "Oh, you guys are from USC, huh?" So, but he started talking to us. Our head coach, Larry Smith, had coached for him. He talked to us about Larry Smith. He asked us what classes we were in. It actually struck up a conversation that might have lasted 5-10 minutes right in the middle of his dinner. Now, I mean, good thing we didn't have cell phones back then. It might have been a lot worse, but. So it was just those types of things, and he wasn't afraid. And I'm reminded of the time, I thought of the story, we were sitting on the couch, and of course, where most of the stories take place, he's lying on the couch, he's got the newspaper, TV's on, where most of you would normally find him. But now that I'm a bit older, I realize that that's not a bad position to be in. They'll tell you. And he was, one of us burped. I don't remember who it was. One of us burped. And on the spot, and he was really proud of this, in his head, he said this. He goes, let's see, a burp is just a breath of fresh air coming from the heart. When it goes around and goes the other way, it turns into and just stopped. And everyone could figure out what he was going to say. And I remember, and he was laughing at himself for saying his joke, and I think you guys would have been there. And that's the type of humor he had as well. You know, kiddie humor, childish humor like that. And I remember that rhyme, and he was so proud of himself for making it up on the spot. And I remember that moment as well. And there were just many other things about my dad. And he was so generous and so loving. And he would have loved this. He would have loved being here. He would have loved this, being with all you. Of course, he wouldn't have liked the reason we're here, but he definitely would have liked being around because he loved family. More than anything else I remember, everything, he loved family. He loved being around family, saying, I love you. It got a lot of point where almost like, you're embarrassed how often he would say it or how he would say it. But I'm also reminded of the roller coaster of life and how there's so many highs and lows in our life. Just last Monday, we had 2 graduations in our family. Our oldest, Maya, graduated from law school in the morning in New York, and then in the morning, later in the evening in California, our middle daughter, Brisa, graduated from college. And what a joyous, incredible day that was. And 4 days later, Dad dies. And it's just the highs and lows of life. But even in lows, you just look around the room and you see what people are here, loving family and friends are here. And how is that not a high? I mean, it's just because it's surrounding the low in life, but it's just awesome to see you guys here and surrounded by love and family and friends. And he would definitely love this, love being here. Now, I'll finish with one last story, just again to show his pride. And I get it now, being a parent. We were Little League. A lot of it was Little League. He spent a lot of time in Little League with me and Shelly. Played Little League baseball. He coached. He sponsored a team. He was president of the Little League Association. But also, as president, he was the announcer at Phillips Stadium. I don't know if it's still there or not. But at Phillips Stadium, every year we would play a game at Phillips Stadium. And so that year, he was the announcer. And so I think it was 3rd or 4th inning. It was my second time up. So I know it's second time up. So I was up to bat, and he was the announcer. So he announced, now we're going to play Jason Gelber. And he said, by the way, Jason Gelber is the only hit in the game. It was 0-0. I had the only hit. It's like the 3rd or 4th inning. And then he paused it for a second. I'm ready to swing, and he said, and he's also my son. I'm loud. To everybody there, I'm like, oh, okay. And so I was like, yeah, I had to step back. I thought, hold on. I stepped back, took a breath, I'm embarrassed the heck out of me, my dad. So I didn't say that. I was thinking, okay, let me get back in. And I'm thinking, that's just the pride he had in me, but what I wouldn't give to be embarrassed like that just one more time. Just that love and pride from him again. And that's just who he was. I mean, he loved you, he told you. To the point where you're embarrassed, okay. But, yeah, as a father now, and I know I embarrassed the heck out of my 3 kids as well, you get it, you understand it. And he was just such a loving, generous father, and I'm going to miss him. And Dad, I love you. Thank you. Thank you, Jason. Next, we'll hear from Howard's granddaughter, Maya.
Unfortunately, I inherited my grandfather's emotion, not my dad's amazing public speaking skills, so bear with me. You're good. Don't look at me. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today to celebrate the life of my grandfather. I am Maya Gelber, eldest granddaughter to Charlene and Howard, also known as Bubby and Grandpa. We have people here today from Los Angeles, Denver, New York, Chicago, and wherever you guys are. But oddly enough, I don't see Grandpa's first employee in the crowd. He talked about him often, practically every time I saw him. And I don't know if you know this, but he was actually gay. But seriously, back then, Grandpa was open-minded and accepting, a trait that seemed to carry throughout his life. When my parents got married, my dad, Jay, formally adopted me as his daughter. But in reality, it wasn't just my dad who adopted me, it was Grandpa and Bubby as well. Something I think is special about this time in our family's history is that Bubby and Grandpa not only accepted me into their family with open arms, but never made me feel any less of a Gelber. But they also never shied away from the fact that I was adopted. In fact, it was something they celebrated and talked about often with love and pride. I think this speaks volumes about Grandpa and his outlook on life, that the world isn't always simple and that we should celebrate our differences and the things that make us unique. Okay. But as the first granddaughter, there was something very important that Grandpa told me to do, and that was to find a nice Jewish boy. I found one, a little bit unorthodox in that he was from Switzerland, but Jewish nonetheless, and Grandpa was overjoyed. When I brought him to his first Chicago Thanksgiving 8 years ago, Grandpa packed us in his car and proceeded to give us a private grand tour of Chicago. We drove through virtually every neighborhood where Grandpa would explain its history, demographic makeup, specifically the Jewish percentage, the estimated annual income, and the changes that have occurred over his past 80 years living in Chicago, his favorite place in the world. And just as Grandpa celebrated my reality, I want to honor his. Grandpa was human, and like many of us, including me, has moments where he acted on pure impulse and emotion. When I was a freshman in college, Grandpa called to tell me that he was driving to New York on his way to something he was not invited to. I can't remember if it was a bar mitzvah or a wedding or something else. Again, I was a freshman in college, but he definitely was not invited. So he got into his car in Chicago and drove to New York City. Along the way, he stopped by my campus so we could spend the day together. The restaurant options were slim, so I took him to the only decent restaurant for 100 miles, a Thai restaurant. Sitting across from me in all seriousness, he said, "This is the best Thai food I've ever had in my life." That was my grandpa, always living in the moment. He felt as if every moment was the best moment of his life. Something we could all use a little more of. I love you, Grandpa.
Thank you, Maya. Next, we'll hear from Howard's son, Shelley.
I was good until that. So some of the same themes are coming up, and so I didn't know what Jason was going to say. I don't think I ever know what Jason's going to say, or Maya. So when I think of my dad, I think about connection, like how much he wanted to be a part of our lives, not just in the present, but in them. And when something happened to us, it happened to him. That kind of reminded me of a story when he taught me how to play catch. So for you guys in baseball, the proper way is to hold the glove up. But when he was throwing the ball, I had it like a scoop. So first throw, I caught it, but it went up the glove, in my mouth, so I lost a tooth. So then it takes me back in, I remember cleaning me up, and then I'm like, you know what? Let's go back out. Let's get back on the horse again. So he was all for it. So he threw the second pitch, caught it the same way, up the glove, knocked out the second tooth. and I can only imagine the thoughts going through his head. And then after I lost the second deal, I said, okay, Dad, that's enough. I also think about celebration and tradition. So his office was about 2 blocks away from the Lincolnwood schools. So grammar school, junior high, I would walk the 2 blocks on the last half day of school, and he would take me to lunch at Myron and Phil's. I could probably order the same thing, but it became a tradition. And fast forward to when I was in college, my freshman year of college, I asked him to pick me up. So no complaints, no hesitation, just that familiar joy that came from showing up for the people that he loved. So he also made it a point to share what he was passionate about. So some of it was golf, but when I got into Tulane, I think he was happier than I was, because he got to share, and he took me to some crazy things. We went to see Al Hurt and Pete Fountain. Some of these people that are, you hear about them now, and you saw them. So, and also about New Orleans, he loved food. So we'd go all over the place. And then my dad he was also fun. He had a little bit of he'd be a smart ass. So I remember, and he would give me some looks, but I remember the look that he gave me. I was in, it was actually one of the high holidays. So I was standing right next to him. And I don't know how I did it, but I fell asleep standing up. I caught myself before I fell. And the first thing I did, I looked over to my left, and my dad was there. And then he just shook his head. But he enjoyed those, the idiosyncrasies of me, Jason, Dory. And then one of the funnier things is, so you guys remember the do not remove under penalty of law tags? So I had mine on my blanket in my room, and he always, bothered him that I never removed it. But that tag, the tag was like a blanket. It was soft. It was easy to bend. And I wasn't going to take the tag off at all. So he, one morning when I was sleeping, but I think because I was in high school, it was probably the afternoon. He came in and he just went to the tag and he ripped it off. I'm in total shock. And then he just gave me a smile and walked out the door. But I got the last laugh. Because what he didn't figure that I'd do is I actually hung on to that tag for probably over a year. And then on Father's Day, I put it in a frame and I said, Happy Father's Day, and I gave it to him. And I have that here. And I know he loved it because I was with him from the time I did that till and then the end. So on Wednesday, it was just so it was my dad and I. And the nurse came in and said, hey, is your cola there? want to drink it. And he was like, I'm not drinking that. It was Shasta. I had nothing to do with that. And he was pretty ornery about it. So another nurse came in, and I said, okay, Dad, what do you want? He's like, I want Pepsi. And then I said, Coke? No, not Coke, Pepsi. Then he proceeded to tell me the difference between Diet Pepsi and Pepsi no sugar. So there were things that he loved, and he wasn't going to stray from it. But the last conversation I had, he told me how proud he was that he was able to support his family in all the things that we were able to do. That was one of the last things he said. And he said, you know, I was so proud of it, and I didn't ask you guys for anything. And then the salesman that he was, now I'm going to ask you something. I'm asking for something. So it's, so that was my dad. Thoughtful, present, passionate, patient, sometimes funny. He felt our pain and celebrated our wins. He shared his passion and welcomed ours. And through it all, he made sure we knew we were loved.
Charlie, thank you very much. Next we'll hear from Howard's wife, Charlene.
Howard saying it's about time my wife said something good about me. I'm overwhelmed by this. I am so happy that we're here at JRC for this. My home, our second home. So much time and energy and money. He would have loved this, as the kids were saying. He just would have loved this. So he started out life totally nameless. Born just a few days before World War II started, 1941. Never named him. On his birth certificate, baby boy Gelber. Life caught up with his parents, and they never did anything about it. Some 20-some years later, we got our first passports. I always filled out all the stuff, gets to the counter. I'm sorry, sir, we cannot accept this. You do not have a name. The birth certificate still said, baby boy Gelber. 2 affidavits later that were certified, notarized, went back to the passport office, and baby boy Gelber became Howard Gelber. The birth certificate was amended. Our life wasn't perfect, because sometimes it was more than perfect, and sometimes it was less than. He was a good man, he was a devoted husband, a loving father, and the happiest of grandpas. What defined Howard for so long was Gelber Pumps, his business, a little pump repair shop with a few sales that his father had started, and Howard just took and grew with it. And it was Gelber Pumps, and as he really got bad, it became Gelber Industries. It was who he was. It was his DNA. He was a salesman. He was a businessman. But I can't say that he was really a boss, because the employees that he had worked for him, and he had this wonderful ability to distill loyalty into all that worked for him. Loyalty to the fact that Howard and I would leave with the kids and go on vacations. He would go on golf trips, whatever, and that business ran beautifully. And sometimes he would call from out of town, and they would say, "Who's this on the phone?" Howard Gelber? We don't know anybody named Howard Gelber. He doesn't work here. And there were parodies and sort of entertainment at some of the holiday parties, and one of the songs is, "Where is Howard? Where is Howard? I don't know, I don't know." But it was great. His offices were around where we lived. He got to leave, go to the games, go to things with school, take us out, go take the kids out to lunch, and yet maintain a terrific business because of the loyalty of his employees. But not only did they work for him, he worked for them. He made sure they had everything. He was a generous, generous owner. When he got some salesmen and they wanted to live and stay where they were or move back to their hometown, Howard opened up a branch office. He had 5 branch offices across the country: Wilmington, Delaware, Cleveland, Ohio, Cerritos, California, San Diego, Philadelphia. And every one of these guys had worked at some place, some time for Howard, and he placed them there. One of the guys lost a job Howard knew in the industry. He lost a job right at Christmas time. Howard sought him out and said, "After the holidays, come on over, I'm going to take care of you." And Greg stayed with us for many, many years and is now has his own company. Howard was Gelber Pumps. After he sold the business, after 25 years, he still talked about the company and all that was so wonderful about it. And as I alluded to, he talked about, in this industry, mechanical engineering and science and dust industry, if you were gay, you were closeted. You didn't tell anybody. But our door, this Gelber Pumps door, was so open, and so many have gone through and worked for Howard. And, he just was very happy about it. Now, of course, everybody put him in that category as well, because Howard carried a purse. He carried a purse from, I don't know, for how many years. And everybody teased him about it. It wasn't a man purse, it wasn't a bag, it wasn't a fanny bag, it was a damn purse. And I don't know what he had in there, but he carried it everywhere. When he sold the business, we had the luxury of being able to, and he was only barely 50, of doing what he wanted to do. He became an avid golfer. He loved golfing. Joined a country club. He had his fraternity of golfers. He loved it. He eventually brought us to Scottsdale, Arizona, where he played golf with a whole bunch of buddies. Loved that. He worked as a ranger at Sunset Golf Course in Highland Park, driving around in a golf cart telling everybody, "Hurry up, no, you're going too slow." Perfect job for Howard. Sitting and telling you what to do. He loved possessions. He loved going places. He just loved doing things big. He loved cars. Always had, when we were married, he would buy Cadillacs. Loved them so much that when I was rushed to the hospital in labor with our first boy, our first son, you think of the bumbling father-to-be, I don't know what to do. Oh no, Howard went back in the house, got the towels, put it on the seats, make sure I didn't do anything on those seats. He purchased a couple of Porsches in his lifetime. And he put a license plate on there. He so loved this car. His license plate were a bunch of letters that eventually spelled out ecstasy. Well, he didn't think about it, but I know all around town when people who wanted that would see him and they thought that, oh, here comes our good humor man. The drug ecstasy. Okay. He loved cars and he wanted to get me one. I came late to driving. After I was working, took buses or whatever. And I was at my job, which was Commerce Clearinghouse, which was a place that was just all large, big picture windows. And somebody said to me, "Look outside." It was Valentine's Day. There was a 1969 blue metallic Mustang hatchback with big red hearts on it. Needless to say, I ran out of the cafeteria and like he took the kids out of school, he took me out of work and we drove around. He loved all this stuff and he wanted to do everything. He took flying lessons. He was, taking his little planes out and getting solo hours to get his license. I had an infant at home and I said, land that plane, you're through. Now it's the end of the planes. He was very, very generous man to everybody. He was so good to my parents. In his business grew, he just made his parents live as comfortable a life as they could ever imagine because of business. He was his brother's keeper, Richard, told by his mother under no circumstances, don't ever not stop taking care of your brother. And he did, and he did. We joined JRC back in 1978. They're a very big part of it. And one of the things that, Howard, as the businessman, let's do stuff that makes money. So we gave the gift of the memorial sculpture. And he was delighted to do that because he knew that his gift was going to continue to give to JRC over and over again. Each new name came onto that memorial sculpture. And it continues to make money today. One thing that really, not only the business always stayed with him, and he always talked about that, but we also traveled. One of the things he loved to do was he was a gambler. He was a gambler in business, he was a gambler, and his game was craps. And he was a good gambler. It was a sport. He was a smart gambler. And he loved to be comped in Vegas. One of the Vegas trips produced for him is a treasured possession, his gold Rolex watch. Another trip with the kids to St. Martin, there was a casino. He'd have dinner with us, he'd say, okay guys, I'm going to work. He'd go to the casino, and after every day there, at the end of the trip, not only did he pay for the trip, but some left over even. He was a smart gambler, and he loved to do it. The other big thing that defines Howard, and it defines the Gelber family as well, is the damn motorhome. The Jewish prince's way of camping. Although he did go camping and he did love fishing up in Canada, Mark is here to attest to that, he loved all of that stuff. But boy, did he get excited about this motorhome. And I apologize to my children, it's my fault. We had a Kala at JRC, the annual retreat, camping, and I said, wouldn't it be fun to rent a pop-up tent? We didn't have to stay in those terrible cabins, so we had our own place. Well, we got it, and we rented it, and we hitched it to the car, and we went to Kala. Popped up the tent. Nobody told us you have to balance the people in the tent. So we're all on one side, and you know what happened, the tent fell over. But it was a good way, to spend a weekend in the outdoors. Our next trip, I said to Howard, how about we get a little bigger unit, that we can drive with the kids. And we went on the New England coast. And I said, okay, I'm done, it's enough, we've had enough of this. Now Howard loves this, cars, planes, automobiles, motorhome. We go to an RV show, and I went along like you'd go to an open house. You're not going to buy the house, but you want to see how people live. And I went, and he didn't think that he wanted to see how people live. He was going to live like this, and he bought a motorhome. The big trip, we went around the country. Did you know you can get into every state in the United States and you only have to go through Iowa? We took a trip. And I could regale you with all kinds of stories, as our kids can, about all the adventures at the trip during the days and the years that we would spend in the motorhome. We had a Passover Seder in the motorhome in the Ozarks. But I want to share with you a little piece that in 1991, I answered a query in the Sun-Times travel section about the worst vacation with your children. And not to be modest, I won first prize. And this will help you get a sense of what that motorhome and the continual talking about that motorhome 40 plus years later. He got a second motorhome, and eventually we just said we had enough of this Howard, and he used it for business, and that was the end of that. But our family of 5 took a 6-week trip to Alaska in 1984 in a motorhome. 33 feet of living, eating, sleeping, and toileting space. Our 13-year-old firstborn had a voice that spanned all octaves, with arms and legs in everyone's way, and a belief that he knew everything, therefore choosing not to learn anything. The middle child, at 10 and a half, wedged between an older and younger sibling, was fighting not only for family position, but a place to sleep and be alone. The 6-year-old baby never knew where she was, being driven, hauled, pushed, and shoved into places strange and peculiar. She asked somewhere in Alaska, "Are we out of Arlington Heights yet?" In and out of the motorhome, we experienced mental pain and physical exhaustion. We walked and trampled and dragged through the constant drizzle and dampness of the new frontier. The children's activities consisted of bickering and commotion, cleanups and fed-ups, put-ups and shut-ups, put-downs and takedowns. And then some women on our 8-hour bus tour through Denali National Park, had the nerve to say to me, "Your children are the best I have ever traveled with, so very well behaved." I knew then I had lost all touch with reality. That motorhome was there, and he loved it. He didn't understand what we would talk about. He still thought we loved it. Well, I am in touch with reality, and I know now, I know why we are all here today. And even though Howard's heart gave out, the love in his heart is still there, and it's there for all of us. And in the cycle of life, I must give a mazel tov to Danny Zackhauser and Natalie Blazer. Their baby boy Isaiah, who came into this world, took his first breaths hours before Howard took his last. So, Howard, we're here. Boy, would I give to have that '69 Mustang back. It's worth a lot of money, almost as much as I would give to have you back. So, we love you, Howard. I love you. We will miss you. Our memories are with you. We will talk about you forever. Rest in peace, my dear husband, baby boy Gelber.
So I'll say only that Howard Baby Boy Gelber was born November 28, 1941 in Chicago, started life on the South Side. His family moved north where he attended Lemoyne Grammar School, where I'm told he was the teacher's pet. Lived in Hollywood Park, graduated from Von Steuben High School, went downstate to U of I, came back to Roosevelt, took over his father's business as was told, and the rest was history. He made a great success out of Gelber Pumps. He was once, I was told, he once got a call. Gelber Pumps and Gerber Plumbing sounded similar. So once in a while he would get a call for Gerber Plumbing. And he got a call once and a customer wanted to order a toilet seat. So Howard, ever the salesman, sold a toilet seat to that person, made the sale. He loved his family. He loved going to Arizona for golf. He loved going on the treadmill, where he would walk religiously. He was generous and he was loyal and he was kind, not only to his family, but to those who worked for him, worked with him. He was the original guy who helped old ladies across the street. Evidently, he loved elderly women. And it never stopped during his life, and he showed them kindness and courtesy. He lived near Wrigley Field when he was a boy, so there was a deal. He wound up to the boys who lived around the ballpark, if they would clean up the mess after each game, they were able to see the next game for free and come into the stadium. So he would do that. It was a little known perhaps that Howard worked at the second oldest McDonald's. He worked with and for Ray Kroc, who was the founder of McDonald's. And evidently Ray would pick Howard up from school if he wanted to impress a client especially, and he would take Howard to show him off as a model employee. So he got his start in burgers. And he became a great chef. He was known for making tuna a la king, tuna fish with peas and cream of mushroom soup on toast. He also had the great dish of hot dogs with cheese on toast. Another Howard Gelber winner and a favorite. So it would be enough to say, to come here and pay respects to Howard, but I think better to leave these doors having changed in some way, and I know that having heard of Howard's Torah, of his life, to be generous with those whom you love, to be patient, to embrace life with zest and be curious and do as many things as you can, and every day not taking anything for granted. And that's a great legacy to leave, and that's what Howard leaves. I know that we didn't exchange so many words over the many years that we knew each other, but whenever Howard saw me, and usually he would be here for one of our choir performances on a Shabbat evening, he would say, "I love you, Howard." And he meant it. You know how some people can say it, but he meant it. And I loved him. So rest in peace, Howard. Rest in peace. I'll now ask you to rise as you are able for El Malei Rachamim, the memorial prayer. El Malei Rachamim, Shochen Ba'amim, Ametzei Menachadechonat Lachat Chanfei Hashkela, במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הקיא מסירים את נשמת חיים בן שמואל ורחל, שהלך לעולמו. אללה בר הרחמים הזכירהו, בסתר כתפיך לעולמים. וצרור בצרר החיים את נשמתו, אדוני וינוח בשלום על משכבו ונאמר God, full of compassion, whose loving presence ever surrounds us, bring final rest to the soul of Howard Gelber, who has returned to his source. May the memory of his life shine forth like the brilliance of the skies above, as it brightens our own lives even now. May you, who are the source of all compassion, shelter him beneath the protection of your wings and bind his soul in the living. He may rest in peace. Let us say, Amen. Please be seated. We now invite the JRC choir up. We sing the words and of course of which Charlene is and has been a major part for years. The ending line of Kadishaton, the mourner's Kaddish, we say, "Aseh shalom livramah, v'yaseh shalom aleinu, el kol Yisrael, el kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru amen." May the one who makes peace in the heavens make peace for us, and for all Israel, and for all who dwell on earth. Let us say,
interment service will continue at West Lawn Cemetery, located at 7801 West Montrose in Norwich. The family will be together at the Gelber residence at 3801 Mission Hills Road, apartment 502 in Northwood. We'll be together today till 9 p.m., Wednesday from 6 to 9 p.m. There will be a minion each evening at 7 p.m. Memorial contributions to JRC would be appreciated. For those of you who will be driving in the funeral procession to the cemetery, the procession will be forming in front of the synagogue. Please obtain an orange safety funeral sticker placed on the right-hand side of your windshield. Having bright lights and hazard lights on at all times. For additional measures of safety, we will be providing many of the cars with a flag. It will be affixed to the top portion of the car. Also, please have your bright headlights on. We'll have a car in the back of the procession to hopefully keep other cars from entering the procession. And for your own safety, please use your horn liberally as you're going through the intersections. Please do not speak or text on your cellular phone when driving to the cemetery. At this time, I invite those of you who have been asked to serve as pallbearers to please come forward as we escort the casket of Howard Gelber, his family, and the cantor from the synagogue. At this time, we're going to stop the live stream, and we thank you for joining us. Please rise.